if by chance or luck or something that 20 years from now, when I'm long gone, there's a news flash or something that says this picture of Ave Pildas sold for $20,000 at auction, I would be happy. I won't benefit financially from it, but I'll be happy that because of that news flash, a lot of people will see that image. And then if somebody else sees that, they might find that it's interesting also. Maybe it opens up something else for them.
Welcome to the Beginner Photography Podcast. I'm your host, Raymond Hadfield, and today we're chatting with street, commercial, portrait, just overall very creative photographer Ave Pildas about unearthing the powerful photo gems that you already have. This episode is brought to you by CloudSpot, the all-in-one, way better than Google Drive solution to deliver and even sell your photos online. You can grab your free forever CloudSpot account with 10 gigs of photo storage, absolutely free, over at deliverphotos.com. Now, today's guest, Ave, is a really interesting guy. I mean, he's got a knack for photo projects with such a simple concept that have such novelty. Like, it's a joy to look at his photos. And I interviewed Ave back in episode 290, where he shared with us his photo series called Starstruck, which is a collection of images that he took of the colorful people walking around Hollywood Boulevard in the 1970s. And that is a book. You can check that out. I'll have a link in the show notes to where you can pick that up. But since then, I've been keeping up with him and his fun photo projects, and thought, what a better way to kick off the new year than to talk about fun photo projects to inspire us throughout the year ahead. So be sure to stick around after the interview, where I'm going to share my 3 biggest lessons from today's chat so that you can start to take away what you learn here on the podcast and actually implement it into your own photography. So with that, let's go ahead and get on into today's interview. Ave, last time you were on the podcast, I think my first question for you was, when did you know that photography was going to play an important role in your life? And now that you've been on the podcast, I now have to come up with another question. So I was thinking about this, and I want you for a moment to kind of close your eyes, mentally close your eyes, whatever you need to do. And because you have an extensive photo collection, an archive of images, I want you to think about them. I want to know what the first image that pops into your head, whether it stands out just because you love it or for any other reason. I want you to have an image in your head that you can think of from your archive. Do you have an image in your head?
I do.
Describe that photo for me.
It's a picture of my cat and a rat. And I called it Cat and Mouse, I think, for Günter Grass from his book. But I had a breakfast room. And the cat, whenever the cat caught anything, he would bring it into the breakfast room. The room was surrounded by windows on 3 sides, and it had one door to get into this breakfast room. So the cat would bring things in, and he could guard the door. One day he brought in a rat, and he just played with it, and I sat there and took pictures. And I got a really terrific picture. And it's a picture where he has the rat in a corner. So there's an upward triangle to that. And so the triangle is in the middle, and the rat is on one side and the cat is on the other. And it's just charged with energy because everybody knows what's going to happen, but nothing is going on. And the rat's tail is strung out straight and the cat's tail is strung out straight. So there's a force going on. And I have that as also a business card, and I see it all the time. And when I hand it out to people, they just say, "Oh, that's wonderful. I love cats." And I think it takes them a while to see what is really going on. But it's just a very charged picture.
Did you know how visually impactful the image would be as you were taking it, or did it develop over time?
No, I didn't know immediately because I took probably, maybe at that time I was shooting film, maybe I took 10 or 12 pictures, and then I looked at them. And some of the pictures, the cat was throwing the rat up in the air, and sometimes a chair leg got into the picture. So I just knew once I looked at the pictures that this picture was dynamic, just because if you hang on, I can get the card and show you the little picture. It's
Sure, of course.
just in back of me. I have to take the headphones off for a second.
Yeah, of course, of course. Oh, there we go. Sure enough. Oh, yeah, there's the triangle. We have the cat on the right there looking to the left, and it looks like the rat's trying to get away. That image tells a story for sure. I want to know because you are one of the people who, when I think of somebody who makes interesting images, I think about you. And when I think about your body of work, it's easy to think of photo projects, the photo projects that you do. And maybe it's the way that you categorize them, maybe it's the way that you view the world. I'm not sure. But when you have an image like this, when you have this image that on its own stands there, it's powerful, it's strong, we understand the story. Do you think to yourself, I need to look for more images like this to start building together? Or do you start thinking of your other photos to categorize it with them?
When I go out to take pictures, sometimes I think, well, I need to get a picture. I'm going to a specific place. I'm going to take some pictures. But I get sidetracked a lot because I see a picture that would fit into another series. And that doesn't mean that my antenna are always up because I miss a lot of pictures. They register in my brain, but I don't take the picture. For some reason, I just get involved in what's going on or looking, watching, and then I might take some pictures. And then afterwards, I think, oh, gee, how come I didn't take this picture? I think that I'm all over the place, you know? And I know it might not seem that way to other people, but I try to concentrate, and sometimes I do a better job than others. But mostly I just can feel what's going on, and I get pulled over and I take a picture of something other than what I set out to take a picture. And as far as the categories go, I think that the picture of the cat and mouse here, I call it's a rat, but I call it a mouse. And the picture of the cat and the mouse was the beginning of me taking pictures of animals and not always pets, just how society has a relationship with animals. And that particular series, which is probably this started in 77, so more than 40 years old, deals with people wearing fur, butcher shops that have rabbits hanging in the window because people eat rabbits. Sometimes dinosaurs, concrete dinosaurs that are all over the country, and advertisements using animals. And sometimes it's pets, but sometimes it's pictures. I go to zoos all the time. I'm on the lookout for animal pictures all the time. But I might go out to do something else and see an animal picture, and then I get sidetracked.
It seems like today we kind of live in this world where, at least for photographers, they're told to niche down so much, right? Whether it be you can't just be a wedding photographer, you have to be a wedding photographer for couples, working professionals who want an elopement on a mountaintop, right? So hyper specific. But this idea, this photo project of yours, animals, it seems so big. Where do you draw the line between taking a photo of every single animal and I don't know what it is that you have? What's that balance?
Well, I've always wanted to do a book about the animal antics. I have my favorites, but I haven't, nobody has been that interested in that. But I haven't promoted that or looked for somebody to do that or teamed up with a writer or something. But if somebody was interested, then I would start the editing process. And the editing process takes quite a time. It doesn't just happen right away. You know, which picture faces the other picture, or is there one picture per page? Is there a blank page someplace? And just the editing process for a project that is going to come to fruition might take a year. So I haven't yet dealt with the animal antics.
So when you say antics, when you see, are you looking for some sort of action or emotion from these animals? Is that what's triggering you to want to photograph this? Or on the opposite side of the spectrum, do you go out and shoot everything and then build the projects after the fact? After you've captured animals in all these different situations, you realize, oh, wow, this one's doing that. Oh, and so is this one, and so is this one. This could be its own project.
Well, it's taken a lot of years to get a good body of work on number of animal pictures. And then when I look at somebody else's picture of an animal or a strange picture of maybe a fake animal or something, or maybe it's a tiger attack in India or something, then I say, oh, wow, I wish I would have been there. I wish I could have taken that picture. That doesn't last long. It's just, I think, well, maybe that could have fit into my project. But, in the word antics, is only a working title because if we talk about the Hollywood Boulevard pictures, my working title was Hollywood Boulevard in the 70s. And when I started working with a publisher, I had to go through and think about what would be a good title for the book. And then I realized, well, even though my focus was on the people on Hollywood Boulevard, there were stars in the picture all the time because they're in the sidewalk. So trying to come up with titles, I came up with Starstruck, and that stuck, and the publisher liked it. So the original title got thrown out, and that became the title, and it's much better. So I have no idea what the animal pictures will become, or if they ever will become, because something else might happen before that. In fact, I know some things that are going to happen before that. So,
So for you, being able to look back at your archive of images is that sounds like one of the most important tools for you to be able to go back and start to build these projects kind of after the capture.
yes. And more recently, I've been weekly putting up a little, not a podcast, but a little thing on social media called Every Photo Has a Story.
I've seen these. They're great, by the way. Very entertaining.
Those are all taken from looking through my archives and saying, oh, here I can take 4 pictures from this group of pictures and talk about them. Sometimes I talk about the composition. Sometimes I talk about just the photograph itself or what I was feeling. Or sometimes I talk about something that doesn't have to do with the photograph and just present the photograph. And that way I also keep track of what I've done in the past. So then that's fresh in my head for a week or something. And then I remember taking a picture 40 years ago and I don't have it in the archive yet. And then I have to go into the cave, and the cave is where I keep all the negatives. And then I have to leaf through those by the year until I find a photo that fits into that category. And while I'm doing that, I might find another photo that fits into another category that I rejected when I first took the photo because it didn't satisfy the constraints that I set up on that particular day, which was 40 years ago or 30 years ago. I've forgotten what the constraints were. I don't remember what I was trying to do, but I have the photo and I'm not encumbered by what I was supposed to do. I can just look at the picture now with a fresh eye and say, oh, this is a pretty good picture, or no, why did I choose this picture? It's terrible, you know? So I have a fresh look at that. And I also do the same now if I go through the pictures that I have digitally, or I go through the Lightroom pictures and I rejected pictures or I passed them by. And then I look through like a folder on Lightroom and I see, wow, look at this picture. How come I didn't notice it before? So I think revisiting your own pictures is a very special thing. And you have to just be open. You have to be more open to that than you are when you're taking the picture.
So after years of building this archive, what tips do you have for us to start building it as we look forward? Because I know that a lot of photographers who are new to you've been photographing longer than I've been alive, So in that time that you've been shooting, what have you done with your archive now or back then to ensure that today, if you wanted to go back through and look, you'd be able to find that there's some sort of organizational system? How can we start to build it ourselves?
Well, I can tell you to do some things that I haven't done. I wasn't really keeping track. So I think for instance, in Lightroom, you can put down your categories and then it'll go across the board. And if you then put in birds or something, all of the bird pictures will come up. I didn't do that. So I was keeping not in film, but when I started shooting digitally, there was a file number. So I started keeping track of the file number. But when I was shooting film, I kept track by year. So I had the year. but I wasn't specific enough. I think if you want to have a good archive, you have to be really specific. And that takes a lot of time. So once you have the photograph, then identifying the photograph or putting in keywords, or you have to be very meticulous about that. I wasn't very meticulous. So I'm relying on my memory a lot about, oh, I remember taking this picture, and then I have to go hunt it up. And sometimes I'm successful and sometimes I'm not. But keeping track from the beginning is probably a must. You just have to know that it's going to eat up some of your time.
Oh man. Yeah, because once again, there's a balance between all of the context and none of the context, right? I mean, with the photo of the cat and the mouse there, I mean, is it black cat? Is it triangle composition? Is it white walls? Is it high key? Is it contrast? You know what I mean? Like how many tags go into it? And I know for me, that seems very overwhelming and I would just abandon the whole thing. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. What do you think about, like, I know within Lightroom, not Lightroom Classic, but the other version, the mobile first version, I think it uses AI to detect what's in the image and then you can search and it should pull things up. Like I know that I've searched beach before and it showed me like all the pictures of the beach. Have you tried any of this?
I have, and I don't like it.
Oh, why is that?
Yeah, because it requires too much time
Time as far as importing them into Lightroom or searching?
searching. I do put names on the file, so if I say Santa Monica, then I can look through all of the Santa Monica pictures.
Hmm.
And within that, I've probably already pulled out pictures that fit into different categories. And then I have within those categories, it might be an animal in Santa Monica, or it could be a person, or it could be a homeless person, or it could be a busker, or it could be an acrobat. So within that, I have a file that might say acrobat or street people, or so after I find Santa Monica, I've taken something from Santa Monica and put it into a different folder. The same if I go to another country.
Hmm.
I might say, okay, here's a picture of a clock. So that might go in under the category in the folder called time. So connected to my other computer, and there's backups on this computer. The other computer, I think I have 6 drives connected to.
Hmm.
So each of those drives, there's one drive for jazz, one drive for maybe the animal things, maybe another drive for just archives, another drive for new pictures that I'm taking, like started. If I get a new drive, then that gets labeled 2023. And I thought about getting these super drives or NS,
Oh, a NAS, an
yeah,
NAS.
NS, but it's very expensive to start all over again.
I'm going to send you some resources after this. I don't think that it's as expensive as you think.
Oh,
And I'd
okay.
be happy to help you out because
Okay.
I just recently made the switch as well. So I'd love to share some thoughts. But when it comes to the categorization, then, as we're talking about here of your archive, what for you are like the main themes? You said that it's categorized by year, of course, and then location. Tell me how you break down a photo as far as keeping it organized.
Yeah, if I would say Paris, taking pictures in Paris. So that's the main category, Paris. And then within Paris, there's another folder called Metro, or there's another photograph called Museums, or there's another folder. So it's the main folder, and then there are subfolders.
And then, so to build a project after the fact, I guess what I'm trying to get at here is that,
Yeah, I build the project after the fact. I don't know that very often I don't know that there's a project.
yeah,
There isn't any project.
yeah.
And then I'd find out that I've gravitated towards a certain, I go to some place and I say, oh, wow, look at all these statues. Or if I'm using Paris, the moneymaker in Paris is the Eiffel Tower.
Hmm.
I didn't know that before I got to Paris. I mean, I knew that there was an Eiffel Tower and I'd been to Paris before. And then I started really paying attention to because everywhere I went in Paris, I could see the Eiffel Tower
Mm.
everywhere. So I started taking pictures of the Eiffel Tower like everybody else does, but with a little bit different slant. It was always from where I was. If it was out the window of a museum at night, then there would be part of the museum in the picture and then the Eiffel Tower. I had no idea that I was going to be taking pictures of the Eiffel Tower.
Hmm.
So now I have a small collection of Eiffel Tower pictures. How many good ones are there? At the moment, there might be three or four,
Hmm.
maybe out of 20 or 25. Will I ever do anything with them? No, I have no idea. If somebody asks me about what did you do in Paris or something like that, I might send them that picture.
Yeah.
Or if somebody asks me, do you have any pictures of the Eiffel Tower? I would send them the one that I like the best. But I don't know when I take a picture whether it's going to really blow up or become something larger.
Well, before thinking about will this develop into something, which is interesting because I always feel like that's the first question that I ask myself. And if the answer is I have no idea, then I typically just don't do it, which is a habit that I need to break for sure. So if you want to go back and build this into a project, just so that I can get some clarification, I know that this isn't an episode all about organization and whatnot, but just so that I can get a better picture, you would have to go back and search through all of your folders of images to see if you can find anything else that fits the category. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, that's the short answer. But that might come up when I'm searching for something else.
Hmm.
And then I see, oh, unconsciously, I had this picture before I started thinking about it as a series.
Hmm.
I might have taken that picture just because I was interested, but the light didn't go off. It wasn't a category in the past.
That makes sense. So, as I said, it's a new year. There's a lot of people who, myself included, would like to try more photo projects. And as somebody who's very productive at photo projects, I want to learn from you, right? As somebody who puts together a lot of photo projects, you are somebody who, when I look at your work, I can see the progression. I can see the vastness in the projects that you create. And seemingly, they can kind of be all over the board. So I want to ask, this may be a strange question, but when I think about architecture of places of worship, people sitting on a bench waiting for a bus, theater box offices, humans interacting with animals, can you, in one word, tie all these images together? What brings these images together?
I'm curious. That's it. I think we started today saying that I'm all over the place. And then you talked about photographers who have a speciality. They're only taking pictures of weddings, or they're only taking pictures of architecture. That would just bore the hell out of me. That's just not where I
That's not
just
where you live. Okay, so then
no.
how do you go deeper into a project? If you're looking at multiple different projects kind of all the time, how do you go deeper into something?
If there's a particular, for instance, I've been shooting now for a year on the Santa Monica Pier. I can go there, park my car, and then I go and I spend 90 minutes, maybe at the max 2 hours on the Santa Monica Pier taking pictures. And sometimes, like, I have too many pictures of people trying to sell something. So I force myself to look at other things. But it's going to take me another year of taking pictures there to get a body of work. So I go there knowing that there's something, I'm going to see something. I might get one picture in that 2 hours, one good picture. I'll know when I start editing which ones are the good pictures and which ones aren't. I have yet to go there and shoot pictures at night. I haven't shot pictures in the fog there. I have shot pictures underneath the pier. This past 4th of July, I took a flag to the beach that's on either side of the Santa Monica Pier and asked people to hold up the flag and ask them what they thought about the 4th of July. So that was kind of a sub category because every 4th of July I take pictures of people with flags or I hang a flag up or something like that and get people to pose. So now I have some pictures about Santa Monica Pier on the 4th of July. Some of the categories overlap. That's just the subcategory of the Santa Monica Pier.
Of course.
And at the end of the 2 years, there could be no one else interested in those pictures but me.
Does that matter to you?
No.
Why is that?
I mean, I wish that everybody would say, wow, look at this, look at this. But that's not why I'm taking the pictures. Although I have to tell you that more recently, I've been really aware of my legacy. And that only came about because I listened to another podcast each Sunday morning, Hindus talking about, and they don't believe in legacy. And I said, well, that doesn't work for me because my pictures are going to be here long after I'm gone.
Hmm.
And that's what I want to have happen.
Hmm.
Then I started really thinking about legacy and feel very good that my pictures are going to be here, just like photographers who I have looked at in the past who are long gone, dead, and their photos are living. And I know something about those photographers looking at their pictures.
So how are you managing that? How are you managing your future legacy of your images?
Well, I'm working on the archive, certainly, and those will go to some institution.
What do you mean by that? Just so that I can be clear. You're taking all of your images and you're sending them to somebody?
Not all of the images, but the ones that I think are good. I will find somebody to take care of those, or I will give them to an institution. I don't know whether it'll be if I can get a museum to take them or somebody else who will just manage them afterwards. That isn't clear to me yet.
Hmm.
But the other thing is that I'm very involved in books. It's another way to get the photographs out there, a broader way to get the photographs out than to get a single image out or to have a gallery sell one image that somebody is going to hang on their wall. I'm not as interested in that as I once was. I think that it doesn't happen very often. It's certainly very difficult to make a living that way. So I don't think of it in those terms. If by chance or luck or something that 20 years from now, when I'm long gone, there's a news flash or something that says, this picture of Ave Pildas sold for $20,000 at auction, I would be happy. I won't benefit financially from it, but I'll be happy that because of that news flash, a lot of people will see that image.
Hmm.
More people will see the image.
So what is it that is most important to you about that? This may be just a dumb question. Why do you want more people to see your images?
Just to let them see what I saw and what I thought was important. It was important to me, or it was strange to me, or look what I saw. Isn't this interesting? And then if somebody else sees that, they might find that it's interesting also. Maybe it opens up something else for them.
So earlier when you said that the word curiosity is what ties all these different projects that you have together, when somebody looks at an Ave Pildas photo, you want them to feel curious as well? Is that it?
Yes, I would like to, maybe they missed it, or maybe they're drawn to that picture because they recognize something in that picture that they themselves gravitate towards. Maybe it's the person who never looked at that type of image or that situation before and said, oh, how come I never recognized this before? Or how come I never saw this before? It's just like asking me why I take pictures. I think if I draw an analogy to someone who's singing a song or a musician, and there are all these musicians who are long gone and they still have recordings and people listen to those recordings and they're pleased by them or they keep the beat or they dance to them or it's joyful or and those dead musicians, they're just smiling. It's the same kind of feeling.
That's so wholesome. That's so interesting to hear. I love it. Thank you. That was beautiful. When it comes to creating images for you, I want to know what's more important. Is it speed of execution or is it perfection?
I think that when you do something for a long time and you have a skill set, you don't think about the skill set so much when you're doing it. It's built in.
Hmm.
Yes, do I change my station point when I'm looking at something I want to take a picture? Yes, I do. Do I try and find the best angle? Do I tilt the camera? Do I compose? I do. If I'm having to work fast because I'm going to miss it, and I miss a lot of pictures because I'm not quick enough, I don't think about all those skills that I've developed over the years when I start taking the pictures because they just kind of fall in place. And all I really have to do is recognize something that's going on and get my camera to see what I'm seeing and push the shutter. And one of the things that I don't do is that I don't have my camera set on multiple exposures. I didn't get in that habit. My habit was to always push the shutter, always push the button down. That presents a problem sometimes because there's a little lag time. So when I was shooting film, when I pushed the shutter down, that's when I saw it. And lag times have gotten much better, much shorter with each new development of digital camera.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still sometimes a lag time because there's autofocus and it's got to come into focus and then it takes the picture. With film, like I could know that at f8 and at this distance, all of this, everything from 5 to 10 feet was going to be in focus. So that isn't exactly, now you can do manual focus, but manual focus on digital cameras is slower than autofocus.
Yes.
So you have to overcome those technological things with digital cameras. But I think the answer to the question was that things are built in. So I'm lucky. I think I've got the timing down better now than I used to. And it works. So I use all of those skills that I have to get the picture. And if I get the picture, I'm happy. If I don't get the picture, I get pissed off at myself. But there's another picture right around the corner, right to my left or right to my right. And then my focus is on that, and I've forgotten about the one that I missed.
You don't sit and dwell about the photos that you've missed in the past?
And maybe for a minute. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
I kick myself in the butt for a second, and then, no, there's just too many more pictures.
Oh, yeah, that is a great outlook. I want to go back to books real quick because we kind of briefly went over books and the power of books and them kind of being able to live on. But your projects sometimes have different mediums, right? Some of your projects are just on your website. Some of them are published in books, but some of them, as you mentioned earlier as well, you're posting to social media and you're doing these kind of deep dives into an image. So how much do you need to know the end result, the medium that it's going to be while you're out shooting? Do you focus on that at all?
No, I don't. That's kind of like saying, oh, I'll take this picture because I know that other people are going to like it. I could never figure out what people are going to like and not or dislike or who's going to react to this. I can bring an analogy to this. If you try and satisfy somebody else, it's like a job. I did that for years, taking pictures for other people as a commercial photographer. And even though I used my talent to make good pictures for clients, it always felt to me like they weren't my photographs. They were for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
I think I said once before that I took almost all of that commercial work and destroyed it so that I wouldn't have to be responsible for it or take care of it.
Wow.
I'm really very lucky and blessed that I just am doing it for me. Do I think about, is it going to make me money? It's not going to make me money.
So then why books? Why books? Why not just post your photos on Instagram and that's it? What's the importance of books?
Well, I do that, but I do know that books have a longer life. The motto for Deadbeat Club Press, who published
Mm-hmm.
the Starstruck, their motto is, there is no money in books.
Mm-hmm.
And Clint Woodside and his wife Alex, who have that press, they're wonderful. They publish a half a dozen books a year, so maybe one more or maybe one less. But their books aren't really making them money. They're also coffee roasters. He has a business where he roasts coffee and he sells coffee to coffee shops and to restaurants and things. And at the book fair that I went to, it was at the Geffen where there were booksellers from all over the world. He made more money because he had a booth there selling coffee, you know. He made more money selling coffee than he did selling books.
It's just a love
You know,
for books.
he has a love for books. And I think that there's another press that has the same idea, who's very successful, Nisrali Press and Chris Pickler. And both of these guys do very quality work and they choose photographers all different directions, but they produce a really good project. They produce good books. But Chris has an olive oil business. So he has olive trees. I mean, this is the love of photography and the love of books. It's not the love of money. They're not doing it for money. I have the same attitude and I feel part of their family. And I'm happy to be a part of their family because we have the same kind of thought about doing things out of love.
Hmm. Tell me the difference in feeling you get when you open up a book from a photographer versus heading to their Instagram and looking at their feed.
Well, when I was really young and you looked at photographs, you looked at an 8 by 10 photograph and you held it in your hand and you looked at the photograph. It wasn't the size of a billboard. There were no photographs in museums at that time. So it was very personal. And books are very much like that. It's so personal. It's you in the book and the photograph. You're looking at that. And so you're at one with that. The difference, I think, on social media, for instance, now I'm looking at you, but the rest of my screen is full up with notes and photos and things like that, and the other environment. And it's just not as personal and it's moving. And there's also maybe a time limit. So when people post things, they put it on a cycle, okay, 2 seconds or 5 seconds or 30 seconds or something. So at the end of that, while you're still looking at, well, what's happening in this corner, then the picture changes. So I'm not turning the page. I can go back, but it could be my age or just what I'm used to, but it's not as personal. So the social media isn't as personal for me. Do I use social media? Yes, because it's a way to reach out. Do I ask people to go and visit my website? Yes, I do ask them to do that. Do I ask them to buy a book? I ask them to do that too. Am I successful at any of that? I don't keep track of the analytics. One of my studio assistants does, and she says, "Oh, Abe, look at this. 800 people looked at this. It's not as good as the one that got 1,000 looks." And I just say, what am I supposed to do with that
Mm.
information? And it doesn't stop me from putting the next thing up. And I don't go and look at the one that got more looks or likes or whatever and try and replicate that because I think that that's again chasing something because I don't know that if I put up a picture of myself, more people look at that than if I put up a picture of a photograph of something that I shot.
Hmm.
And I could never understand that.
Hmm. That is interesting.
I don't know why are people interested in a photograph of me as opposed to a photograph of something else.
I don't know. I don't have an answer for that.
Neither do I.
But it doesn't change the way that you move forward with social media.
No.
Yeah. I know that we're coming to the end of our time here. If you could look back at your career, if you could think about the photo projects that you have created, if you could think about maybe images that have made the most impact, if you could think about when you felt most fulfilled creatively, what advice would you give to somebody who is just getting started, who maybe they feel lost? They don't know what it is that they want to start shooting. They don't know what the subject matter is going to be, what the medium is going to be, if it's going to be successful, or even how to determine whether it's going to be successful. What would you say to those people?
I would say that everybody gets something. Everybody gets something that you're born with. And if you can identify what that is, whether it's you're musically inclined or visually inclined, then I think that once you identify that, then you can develop it. And that's what's going to make you happy. You just have to follow that. You don't have to try and be somebody else. You just have to recognize what you are and the gift that you've been given, and you develop that and never give up. Never give up. That's it.
Have you ever thought about giving up?
No, give up to what?
Well, I guess in terms of, we had talked a little bit about the commercial photography and you didn't like it. And moving on from that, when do you know when to stop doing something that isn't aligned with yourself?
I think that in my case, when I was doing commercial photography and I was younger, I could feed off of the stress. That's part of your testosterone. You're just trying to run it 100 miles an hour all the time. And you feed off of that. And then eventually you get tired or you just said, oh, I just can't stand another person telling me to do it this way. And that happened when I switched over from being a designer to a photographer. It's because I was sick of people clients telling me, make the size of the type a lot larger. I don't like this color or something like that. Or The worst was for them to changing something on the press without me knowing or without telling me. And finally, I just said, it's much easier to be a photographer. Nobody is telling me to change the image. They're just saying, I like this one or I don't like this one. And that's a little bit easier to deal with. And I don't equate like and dislike with good and bad, because you can like something that is bad. I could forgive people easier for me to forgive people around a photograph than around a design. I would just say that you just got to eventually follow your heart, what makes you happy. If you get that early on, good for you. If it comes later, good for you. But if you get that, you got to run with it, because that's what makes your day.
I don't know how to end it any better than that. Ave, once again, you came on. You did a phenomenal job taking my less than fully formed questions and turning them into answers that I know listeners are going to be able to have some major takeaways from. So thank you for that. Before I let you go, listeners are going to want to know, where can we see some of these photo projects that Ave is talking about? Where's the best place to do that?
I guess you can visit the website. You can always go to a local bookstore and ask for Starstruck. You can join my ever Wednesday constant contact by, I think, Googling me, or there should be a link that you can just send me to put your name on my list, and then you'll get a photo every Wednesday of whatever I'm thinking about on Tuesday night. And just try and have as much fun with it as you can. I think YouTube is a really good place to find me. YouTube, Ave Pildas.
Huge thanks to Ave for coming on the podcast. I had 3 takeaways from today's interview. The first one is to take 2 things and make one thing. Ave really has this ability to take 2 normal things and combine them into one interesting thing. And creating a unique image, which is something that we all want to do, I don't think it requires you to reinvent the wheel like sometimes we feel it does. Sometimes it just takes you looking at the wheel a bit differently. Anybody can go to a local state park and take photos, but who's sitting on these trails with a camera set up just waiting to take a photo of wildlife to cross the path? Or even more so, who sets up an off-camera flash and just sits there waiting for the animal to look their best? You could. Takeaway number 2, follow your passion. It seems like a bit of a trope, sure, I understand. But Ave has had a successful career as a commercial photographer and left it because it was killing him creatively. To not get to that point, you have to follow the things that interest you. Whether it be subject matter or technique, whatever it is, you have to make it fun. When it comes to photography, default to fun, not overwhelm. And takeaway number 3 is to organize your archive. If you like this photography thing that we do, chances are you're going to take a lot of photos. And that happens because we like to press the shutter button. But what happens after that? What happens to all those photos? Do they just go into a folder on your computer and become forgotten like a digital shoebox full of old prints? The problem is only going to continue to grow as you continue to shoot. So start to organize your photos now. I use and love Adobe Lightroom. I just ran a 3-part Organizing Your Photos challenge in the Beginner Photography Podcast community, which all of the replays are still up if you want to come on in and watch them. But it's all about finding a system that works for you, and that is what I help you to do in this free video training. So check it out in the Beginner Photography Podcast community. And if you're not a part of it already, you can come join us by heading over to beginnerphotopod.com/group. Our community, it's free, it's private, so come join us. Those are my biggest takeaways. That's it for this week. Thank you again for tuning into this episode of the Beginner Photography Podcast, brought to you by CloudSpot, the easiest way to deliver and even sell your photos online. You can learn more about CloudSpot by heading over to deliverphotos.com. And remember, the more you shoot today, the better of a photographer you will be tomorrow. Talk soon.
Thank you for listening to the Beginner Photography Podcast. Keep shooting, and we'll see you next week.